Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Oh, good evening, everyone. It is April the 2nd. No, it is May the 2nd. We are off to a blazing start here on Buds and Blue Jays going live. And welcome to episode 175 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Jesse Burrell, joined as always by Riley McConnell. And today on our show, Riley, I feel like we can just go back and talk about the same three things we've been talking about the last few episodes. Blue Jays win a game, lose 2 games, and the offense is nowhere to be found. So I'm hoping today on this episode, Riley, you and I can come up with a plan on what these Blue Jays should do to turn this around, if there is any hope for turning around this Blue Jays offense. We will discuss that in this episode. Plus, seems like Alek Manoah is on his way here, going to make a start. He had a great start in Buffalo. We'll talk about that and so much more in this episode. But first, Riley, we took the day off. The Blue Jays had a day off today. We took a day off to kind of recharge, recoup our thoughts. How are we feeling after losing 2 out of 3 and what is now only winning 2 out of 7 games against the Kansas City Royals? How are you feeling about our Blue Jays right now?
What a bad season series to have against a team that I thought going into the year, hey, Kansas City's young, they're exciting, they do have some really good toolsy guys. But if you were to tell me that it would end like that, because there's no redemption now. We had our home and home against the Kansas City Royals, and that's it. There is no redemption. They're walking away, and I would say feeling pretty good. Us, on the other hand, there's a lot of kind of maybe where to point the finger after this one. And Jesse, I think you and I can kind of point the finger down and kind of narrow it down on the batting order. Jesse, we actually scored 6 runs.
Yes,
in one.
Riley, we did it. The Toronto Blue Jays scored 6 runs in a game. Phenomenal.
We have something to celebrate with that. But then, Jesse, we start the series off right. We certainly did, and we were lucky to get a close ball game. Games 2 and 3, though, Jesse, man, we wall up the whole 2 runs over those 2 games. I mean, that's pretty part of the course for the season. It's been a very, very stressful stretch of games to
watch. Yeah, it has not been easy for our boys in blue. I did want to point out, go ahead, Riley, if you're back.
It's been extremely frustrating to watch with this ball club offensively. I mean, it's same old story, Jesse.
It is. I did want to point out in that game 1 victory, 6-5, that was the first time this season the Blue Jays had come back from down 2 runs. We were down 2-0 in the top of the first to win a ball game. The first time this year that has happened. And I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but we can talk about it now. This year's Toronto Blue Jays team, well, reminds me a lot of last year's Toronto Blue Jays team, but it also reminds me a lot of the 2008 Toronto Blue Jays team, if we're going way back in the memory list here. And that year, we had great pitching. Roy Halladay was good. AJ Burnett was here. Sean Markham, Jesse Litch were staples. BJ Ryan had 32 saves out of the bullpen. Like, the pitching was phenomenal on that team, but the offense really struggled at times. I think Vernon Wells led the team in home runs with 20. And in that season, in 2008, the Blue Jays had a stretch of, I believe, 20 straight games where they scored 5 runs or less, which is the exact streak the Toronto Blue Jays of this year just had. When they finally broke out and scored 6 runs in a game, the Blue Jays proceeded to score 4 runs in their next 4 remaining games. And the Blue Jays, after scoring 6 runs in a game to break that streak, have scored 2 runs in 2 games. Riley, that year's Blue Jays team finished in 4th place. And I feel like we're on the same path. If things stay the status quo as they are, that's how we're going to finish this year.
That team from 2008 also had future Hall of Famers in Scott Rowland and Roy Halladay. This team does not. You can't say that we have the young players, Vladdy, Bo. You can't say they're bound for the Hall. That's a far-fetched thing. They're not. Yeah. It's not trending in the right.
Yeah, like I don't think the Blue Jays have any current Hall of Famers on their team. They probably have a couple of guys who are going to be very good, but none of the players are getting into the Hall, which says something about this team. Let's get into it a little bit, and I can go through how each of the individual players did on this team, but it's more of the same. Bo Bichette struggled in this series. I did see some positives from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but we can get into that a little later. And George Springer, terrible on this team, Riley. And I am proposing to you that we do a massive shakeup of the batting order right now, because our 1, 2, 3, Springer, Vlad, and Bo, are not doing it. You said last episode they could probably be the 7, 8, 9 of the Dodgers right now. Like, we really need to get our best hitters together and clump them up and hope that you put your 3 best hitters together. We can score 1 run. You do that 3 times in a series, you'll be getting 4 runs in a game, which is more than what we're averaging on the season so far. So I am proposing a massive shakeup to the batting order here, but I want to take your thoughts first. What do you think we should do?
I mean, hey, I'm all about throwing it to the wall and seeing if it sticks at this point, man, because we can't afford to drop too much farther back. We obviously haven't started the season off on the right foot offensively. So why not? Why not get a little bit crazy? We got a 3-game set against the National League team coming up. Why not go a little wild? Try Davis Schneider leading off, Justin Turner in the 2-hole. Like, I'm not
our show 3, you know, like let's go crazy.
Here and honestly, here's the thing: when George Springer came up with the Astros, I wasn't sold that he was even a leadoff type hitter. He is not your typical leadoff guy to begin with. And baseball is so out of, you know, the times where it was the 5'8" slappy quick guy that's the leadoff hitter. I mean, Kyle Schwarber, who is not a leadoff hitter in a lot of places. I've seen him lead off games for the Philadelphia Phillies. Mm-hmm. So if he can hit leadoff, Justin Turner can hit leadoff for us. He's got good bat to ball skills. I mean, we're talking 2 different types of players. Hey, I know Varsho doesn't get a ton of bat on ball, but if he gets on base, we can make things interesting.
Mm-hmm. My batting order is interesting because moving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Bo Bichette down the order isn't going to stop them from swinging at that pitch down and away. Pitchers are still going to attack them the same way. The thing it is going to do, though, it is going to give your hitters who are hitting more at bats over the course of the season. Like, Riley, this series alone against Kansas City, 3 Blue Jays had double digits in plate appearances. They were George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Davis Schneider were the only 3 to get 10 or more at bats this series. And I don't know about you, man, but I want my guys who are actually hitting better to get more at-bats in the course of a series here. And right now, that's not George, that's not Bo, or that's not Vlad. So that's what moving the batting order will do. I'd rather have more at-bats from Justin Turner right now than I would from George Springer, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely feel the exact same way. Justin Turner, our best all-around hitter right now. And then, you know, Varsho is pretty close to that. And then you got guys like Jansen, Davis Schneider. Like, for me, those are our top 4 hitters.
Like, I even want to see Ernie Clement. Get him in there some more. Give Vogelbach a run just to see if he can do what he did in spring. Like, it's
not in love with Vogelbach, but Clement is a pretty good guy to have. I don't know if I put him super close to the top of the order, but he certainly makes things interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's time to do something like that and really see if we can make things work here, because it's simply not working. Riley, do you have a thought on in game 3 of this series, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., late in the game when the Blue Jays just gave up a massive home run to go down, he had a pop-up that Salvador Perez easily caught, and Vladdy's smiling. He's laughing. He seems like he doesn't have a care in the world that his team are losing. Is there something to that, or is that nothing?
I don't know how to read into this. Vladdy's a first baseman, and Jesse, you know as well as I do, probably the most social position on the diamond, maybe behind the catchers and big league umpires, big league catchers. You know each other's first names. Heck, you might even know when their birthdays are, things like that. First baseman, you're kind of greeting a guy to the base paths in a way. And I know that he's got, you know, a kind of a chummy relationship with some of the Kansas City Royals, Salvador Perez for one. I don't know if this is him not taking it seriously or what. I mean, I'm not in love with it, but at the same time too, how would you feel if he went the total opposite approach and stood at home plate and smashed his bat over home plate? Because to be honest, I wouldn't love that either. I mean, I like almost robotic baseball players in a way, and in a perfect world, everyone just puts their head down and runs everything out hard. But I mean, I think I'm not going to read too much into this. I won't draw excuses for Vladdy. Probably not at that point in the game. Do you want to?
I mean, I do think we would like to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just show like a little signs of, hey, like it's serious. It's time to get in business with this. But he talked a lot at first base in that MVP caliber 2021 season. And the first baseman that probably is the most animated and chats the most is Joey Votto. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. So maybe there's not much to that. I'm not too sure. Riley, some other takeaways. Let's get into something positive here because the Blue Jays did have some hitters hitting well. Justin Turner had his first multi-home run game of the season. I was at this game. This was Friday night. This is where I got the Danny Jansen jersey. I got the goggles too to go with it. It was a lot of fun. He has really impressed me. He hit a hanging slider down in the zone that he crunked out to the right field fence. And then he had a fastball there where he took it over the right field fence too. Danny Jansen also had 2 home runs in this series, which very similar. And the 2 things that Danny Jansen and Justin Turner both do really well is they are hitting the ball in the air to the pole side. And it's almost scripture at this point. This is what you should be doing. There's a reason that barrels have the highest expected WOBA against when you hit them. Hit more barrels, good things will happen at the plate. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who hits the ball as hard as anyone, is constantly hitting the ball on the ground. Bo Bichette keeps hitting the ball the other way. George Springer couldn't make hard contact anymore if he tried. It's just hit more of those balls in the air and you're going to have more success. And dare I say it, Riley? And Blair and Barker said this today too, and I'm going to mimic them as well. But this team hit better when Dante Bichette was still around. I don't know what our hitting coaches are kind of saying or doing here, but it's like, there might be something there. And John Schneider is saying too, trust the process. It's all going to get okay. But I'm sick of him saying that. It really does feel like the approach needs to change for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Jesse, for me in my head, the process is over. We went through the process. The Blue Jays turning point, and it sucks that we had the shortened COVID season. In a way, I feel like that probably hindered guys like Cavan Biggio, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who did come out the next year swinging guns blazing. But hey, I think that for this right now, it's not about the development. These players, whether you want to say Bo's going to get a heck of a lot better or not, this is a team that's supposed to be winning ball games. Mm-hmm. To me, the word process means, okay, we're still working out kinks. I mean, this is a team that should have things figured out, Jesse, and we clearly don't. In an area where I think we should be maybe not exceptional, but certainly a top 10 team in baseball, we're now looking down the barrel of a bottom team in almost every offensive category, especially we haven't even talked about clutch hitting. I mean, that's a whole other thing on its own. I mean, I'm just talking about producing runs in general. We're at the bottom, let alone hitting in the clutch. Jesse, we just can't score runs no matter what.
It's almost like we knew this was an issue all offseason, did nothing to address it, and are still surprised that it's still an issue going forward. I want to say, Riley, how do we fix it? What's our move? Do we call up Orelvis Martinez? Because I think that'll prove the Blue Jays are getting quite desperate if we do decide to call up Orelvis Martinez. Still incredibly young. He's made a shit ton of errors at second base down there. The power's great, and it'd be great to have. But Addison Barger was also mashing at the time in Buffalo, and we called him up, and he's 1 for 18 with just 1 single since getting here. So there's no guarantee that would work. Do you think that's a route we can take?
Oh, Jesse, I have some thoughts on that. First of all,
yeah, go ahead. Oh, had somebody talk, he froze. Yeah, because look, Buffalo has been really good. There's a hitting coach down there that could, in theory, provide some sparks. But Jackson Holiday in Baltimore was a better prospect than Orelvis Martinez. He came up. He hasn't been hitting at all. It'd be very interesting. But Riley, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Really hate that the internet's not cooperating. Sorry, viewers and listeners. Jesse, yes, I do have thoughts on this. Barger should have 4 major league hits at this point. And it's unfortunate he hits the ball extremely hard. I think that, are we allowed to show that we're desperate? I think so. It's honestly not the worst thing. I think we're not hitting the panic button, but we're trying new things. I mean, if we come across as desperate by bringing up Orelvis Martinez, I really don't think it's the worst thing. And hey, Jesse, if he can handle big league pitching, then he stays. And if he works in that lineup, because Jesse, there were questions at the start of the year. Oh, damn, Davis Schneider is not looking good. What the heck are we going to do with this guy? He's a mainstay now. There's no way. If Davis Schneider gets sent down, I'm cheering for the Rockies kind of thing. You cannot take him out of this lineup. He's one of, Jesse, that's the thing. He's one of the few people who are hitting. I say, sure, bring Orelvis Martinez up. And if he does hit, then he stays. because we need guys in this lineup that are going to be able to accumulate hits. We have 3 or 4 guys that I feel confident swinging the bat right now. That's a very low number.
Mm-hmm. So you, I think, want to play more of whoever's shown they can hit, keep them in the lineup and hitting. You don't care if it's lefty versus lefty, righty versus righty. If you're hot, you should be in the lineup, right?
I mean, we're at that point right now. I mean, honestly, man, I think that John Schneider has overthought a lot of things this season.
I would agree.
And for one, Kirk got a game in game 2. Jansen was 1 and 3. Kirk was in game 2. Look at the results. 2 solo shots in games 1 and 3 for Jansen. Kirk goes 0 for 4. I know that they weren't equal amount of playing time, but you tell me what's what, man. Because over the course of the season, Danny Jansen is still kind of freshly off the IL. Kirk's had a good amount of playing time, and the numbers aren't even close right now. So, I mean, that's the guy. You got to go with the guys who are hot. I don't care if he throws submarine, 3/4 slaughter over the top, if the pitcher's left-handed, right-handed, or Pat Venditti. Like, you gotta hit who is hitting.
Right. So the only other option then, if the Blue Jays aren't going to go the prospect route, call up some of their guys, try to get sparked that way, is one, make a trade. But you rarely ever see trades in baseball throughout the month of May. And 2, like, what prospect are you trading off this team? Like, Tiedemann's hurt, or Elvis Martinez is the only one of value, I guess. You're not going to trade someone off the big league roster because you're trying to win right now. Like, I don't really think there's an avenue you can go to really sign a high impact or trade for a high impact bat here. So I think that's off the table as well. And then the third option is, like, do you just fire the manager and try to hope that gives your team a spark? But I don't think you can do that, because this will be the third manager now Ross Atkins has hired, and general managers should not get access to 3 separate managers. Like, I think if you are firing John Schneider, you need to let Ross Atkins go. And I don't know if he's coaching for his job or what the deal is here, but it's like, I also don't think that's a route the Blue Jays are going to go. So it's literally going to come down to the guys need to start getting better. And I don't know if I believe in our coaching staff right now as currently constructed can help our guys get better.
It's really unfortunate. And I really don't want to point the finger at coaches, Jesse, because this stuff, and yeah, you're not going to see a trade, I'm sure. The problem should have been solved in-house with the players that we do have. Something is not going right for the Blue Jays hitters that should. And we could blame it on batted balls being caught and things like this, but no. Like, they're visually, Jesse, we can see that the offense isn't happening. Bad swings decisions, whether it's swinging at a bad pitch or taking a pitch on a 2-0 count, maybe should have been swung at or not. Bad grounding into double plays, and just not barreling up a baseball, runners in scoring position, less than 2 outs, not making those things happen. I mean, hey, shake things up a bit. I don't like to say, I won't say that I think the hitting coach is bad. The pitching coach, pitching coach is irrelevant. Our pitching is great. Pete Walker's doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the other coaches that are on the hook, I don't know. Like, I have no reason to believe that this problem is going to fix itself. I mean, I
think it'd be insane to think so, to be honest.
We're a good little sample size into the season. I mean, stats are still going to fluctuate at this point. It's still early. I mean, it's the 2nd of May. It's still early, but I mean, but
you got to play with urgency, though.
But when is it going to be too late? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
We're going to play. We're 20, 24, 25 more games, and all of a sudden it's June, and I mean, that's an exciting time of the year, Jesse. That's kind of the turn of summer. And boy, if we don't figure it out by then and we haven't done anything, then the urgency is going to kick in. And then I bet you're going to see maybe some jobs being lost because the results aren't happening.
Right. And with that in mind, I think these next 2 weeks are an actual very important set of 2 weeks for the Toronto Blue Jays. If we're 2 weeks, 4 series from now, the offense is still struggling, the pitching is still doing its thing, the defense is still doing its thing, but we're still not getting anywhere and we fall farther behind in the standings, I think you're going to start to hear some rumblings, maybe some signs of desperation for this Toronto Blue Jays. Because Ross Atkins knows he has this year and maybe next year to win with this current core. And I think this is going to be the time. So these next 2 weeks for this Toronto Blue Jay, I think is going to be very important.
it's every game is important. You can't
True.
unless you're given a night off. I mean, it's 162 games, but you look at how close these teams finish at the end of the year, man. It could be a loss. It could be a matter of winning and losing a game 112 against a rival club that takes you out of the postseason. Every game matters. 162 games, and it might not seem like it means a damn thing going into a team like against the Washington Nationals this weekend. But boy, those might have implications down the stretch. We don't know, man. We need every win we can get because we know the teams in our division are great. I'm counting out at this point, and I'll say it right live on right now. Like, I'm counting out winning the American League East. Like, at this point,
it seems hard.
I'm even crossing my fingers for a wild card, and we still got a lot of work to do, man. And if this continues, like, I'll be more pessimistic towards it. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I'm super confident. I mean, if baseball was a game of just pitching, hell, chalk me up for a World Series bet. But right now, we're missing 50% of the game of baseball right now, and it is showing in the box score.
And that makes sense why the Blue Jays are a below 500 team as things currently constructed. Riley, before we get on to pitching, I have two more things I want to mention here. First thing, the Blue take that Colorado series aside. I don't think the Blue Jays have played a bad team yet. I think maybe the Houston Astros might be the worst team the Blue Jays have played aside from that Colorado team. So keep that in mind. The schedule has been very tough at the start of the year, so maybe things will bounce around. And there is a number, I forget who I saw this from on Twitter, so I'm very sorry I can't properly quote you here, but they looked at the terms of stuff plus that the Toronto Blue Jays have faced this year. And in fact, the Toronto Blue Jays have faced the second most terms of stuff plus pitches against. So what I'm saying is their hitters have faced the second toughest pitching in all of baseball so far, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being the single most individual hitter in all of baseball. So no hitter in baseball has seen more tougher pitches than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and the Blue Jays as a team are in second place. Does that mean anything to you, or is that just noise?
Honestly, you reading that stat in my head, the confident version of myself will be like, he can handle it. But Jesse, he clearly can handle it, or his stats and reflect differently. It's good. That's really good information to know. By the way, would his stats be tremendously different if he is facing worse pitchers, worse pitching? I mean, we don't really know. We'll take.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out more in this series what happens. Anyways, let's move to the pitching side. We spent 22 minutes on this offense, which, of course, we have to. It's the main talking point of the Toronto Blue Jays, this team. But I want to lump these two starting pitching performances that we had in this series together, and that was the performance that Chris Bassitt and Jose Berrios had. Bassitt went 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Berrios went 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Both pitchers were very similar. Chris Bassitt's stuff looked nasty. He was throwing the hardest he's ever been. He had a no-hitter into the 6th before he allowed 3 straight hits. Chris Bassitt postgame said, and Jose Berrios mimicked this as well, postgame, both said they only really made one mistake or one bad pitch. In fact, this is 2 outings in a row for Jose Berrios now where he really only made one mistake and he can't get a win because the Blue Jays offense is so putrid. Chris Bassitt postgame was even saying things like, it's unbelievable. This is ridiculous. I'm getting fed up. And like, we're getting fed up as fans here too. So Chris Bassitt is like feeling what we're feeling here. And there's got to be a sense of urgency here. And if all the players are getting restless in the Blue Jays locker room, like Bo Bichette looks like he's getting restless too here, then I got to imagine John Schneider just telling everybody, relax, it's going to be okay. Can't be going well. Do you have a thought on that before we move on?
At this point, we do not need animosity in the locker room. We need the guys to be gelling, jiving, whatever you want to call it. It's unfortunate. I never would want to, myself personally, I would look at it and use words like we as a team, things like that. It sucks that he does have to single out the hitters, but our starting pitchers are good. And it doesn't take rocket science to figure out why we are losing these ball games, Jesse.
Yeah, and like even the players in the clubhouse know it now too, and that is not a good thing going forward. So congratulations actually to Jose Berrios before we move on from him. He made MLB's Player of the Month for April. Very good start to the series. And I did want to point out though, a lot of the underhood stats seem like Jose Barrios should be probably around a more 4 ERA, but we need the positives right now. We won't look at that, and we won't look at the hard hits he's been giving up. We're going to say good things for Jose Barrios. I want to touch on Yariel Rodriguez's performance here. This was the 4th start he made in the big leagues, and his line, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 1 K, did get up to 82 pitches. He laid a lot of pitches over the plate, and it seemed like he got too he started throwing his off-speed pitch more. I was at this game. I thought his fastball actually looked pretty good, but he wasn't throwing it as much. Maybe he just, because he has 4 or 5 pitches, he wanted to throw them more. Or I don't know if that's what Danny Jansen was calling or what the deal was. But I want to see, if you're going to get beat with your best pitches, which is what Yariel Rodriguez didn't do in this start. But either way, he left. He hit the 15-day IL with inflammation of the spine, which does not sound great. That sounds very tough. So he's now gone. Bowden France is still in the IL. Ricky Tiedemann's hurt. It's all lining up for Alek Manoah to make the start, who did just have a 6-inning, 12 strikeout performance in Buffalo against the Indianapolis team down there. And it seems like he is going to make the start Sunday in Washington, Riley. I know we've been pretty much against Alek Manoah, but this is it. We're going to see him. What are we expecting?
We have no other choice. I guess
we really don't.
I guess if you want to look at it at the overall series, let's get let's win the Friday game. By the way, I hope you have Apple TV. I'll say that.
Yes.
Saturday, not going to get into that. We'll talk about that after when, I won't, I'll be on vacation, but anyhow, we hope that we get good pitching Friday and Saturday, because I don't have any faith in Manoah. I get it. He went out there and he had a good start in AAA, and I think that's fantastic. He does it one time. I guess it's good the injuries lined up. Prove me wrong, man, because this is just terrible. I have a sour taste in my mouth, have for a long time, and I think that you combine his starts and kind of look at the bad versus the good. And for me, it's a no-brainer. The bad outweighs the good, but we're at the point now where we don't have a choice. We're gonna try him in this game, and I mean, heck, maybe he gives up 6 runs in our offense, miraculously scores 8. Who the heck knows? I'm not counting.
You're dreaming, Riley McConnell. You're dreaming.
I'm not counting on it, but that's how baseball works. It seems it's been a very season, and I don't have a lot of faith in Alek Manoah right now. I get it. Good start in AAA. But where he was not too long ago at the major league level, it's awfully frustrating if he was to come back and repeat what he did and have that ERA over 5, man. It's really tough to watch. I hope he can bounce back, but I'm really not counting on anything too spectacular.
Look, Alek Manoah, you wanted a chance. You wanted it for so long. You have it. This is your chance. This might be your last chance to prove that you are a solid big league pitcher. Please take it. Please run with it, because boy, does this team need you. Riley, I'm just going to go quickly through the bullpen here. We did have some call-ups, some names coming up, some names going back down. We got our first look at Zach Pop this series, who really struggled in spring, but was actually putting together a decent season for the Buffalo Bisons, and I thought he looked pretty good. That 98-mile-per-hour sinker will play for Zach Pop. If he could ever figure that out consistently, he'll be okay. And Brandon Littell was called up. He got in a little bit at the Dodgers series, but he pitched again here in this series as well. I thought he was fine. He was like the last man out of the bullpen. Didn't really wow me, didn't really leave me much to be desired, so I thought he was okay. Nate Pearson got his second career save in game 1. I thought his 2 hits he gave up too were kind of just meh, but he was able to shut down the door and get the last guy. But then he comes in games 3 and gives up a 3-run home run to Michael Massey on a slider that he probably got too much at the plate. And Eric Swanson has not looked good, giving up a lot of home runs. He struggled again in this series. Do you have a quick takeaway on our bullpen performance?
Yeah, it's unfortunate with Swanson. I think that was the first batter he faced. And I almost had this kind of thought, I don't think this is going to go well. I don't know what it is. His delivery, Jesse, I think you mentioned something about weight. Maybe putting on
it
some
looks
weight.
like he's put on some weight. Yeah.
And I think it really has changed the mechanics of how he's throwing a baseball. And I don't think it's comfortable for him out there. I don't know what kind of adjustments need to be made, but something has to change. We know that he can be a very good pitcher and simply has not to start this year, which is unfortunate. We've had a very select few good pitchers out of the bullpen who I I trust a lot. Garcia, of course, being one. Pearson actually, it looked really good in that save. That's a high leverage situation.
Mhm.
I'm sure you were stoked when you saw Nate Pearson come out there. I wasn't thrilled off the hop, but I'll tell you, man, when he struck out the last guy, it felt awfully good, and especially for him to get that.
Us Nate Pearson truthers out there still believe in the kid, and that stuff will play. So happy for Nate Pearson, but I wish he didn't have that blow up in Game 3. I also noticed Jimmy Garcia did not get used in this series, so he was used a lot in the Dodgers series. So I guess with the off day today, he'll be well rested for the National Series. I expect we'll see him quite a bit going forward here. And I also wanted to point out the Blue Jays, because they've been losing so many games, haven't really had many high leverage situations to put their relievers into, just because they've been down, and those high leverage situations are usually more when you're winning. And even the games they've won, they've kind of won by multiple runs. So we haven't really seen how these Blue Jays relievers can really perform in high leverage situations. So something to watch for going forward in case we do get some. We should really see who these high leverage Blue Jays relievers are going to be. Riley, any quick thoughts, pitching, hitting, bullpen, before we kind of take a look at this Washington series coming up?
Yeah, you said it right there. Pitching, hitting, and bullpen. Pitching and bullpen, just fine. We'll address the hitting for the next time. We've already tore that one apart. What's in store against the Nationals?
Yeah, so before we get into it, because I do have something I want to add on that might intrigue you or get you excited for this upcoming Nationals season. But Riley, true or false? The Blue Jays are scoring 6 or more runs in at least one game this series.
I'm going to take true on that one.
I'm going to take it true as well. We're blindly optimistic about the Blue Jays here. And do you remember the 2015 Toronto Blue Jays season?
That I know I had a lot of fun that year watching
Yes.
baseball.
Yes.
I know that.
Okay, so did we. That was the one year the Blue Jays won the division. If you remember that season, the Blue Jays, maybe it was 2016, it was one of the two. They started off real poor. In fact, I think John Gibbons thought he was going to lose his job because he was manager at the time. The team wasn't hitting. They weren't doing well. They went into Washington. They had a doubleheader against Max Scherzer, and Kevin Pillar, of all people, had a 2-home run game that really broke the Blue Jays open off Max Scherzer, and the Blue Jays went on to run and won 10 straight games after that. That is the last time I remember the Toronto Blue Jays going to Washington. I know they've been there since then, but I don't think their games have been that memorable to me. So I know that's going to happen. Maybe, and just maybe, we can manifest that this is the series, just like it was in that year the Blue Jays went and went to the ALCS, that we can go into Washington, something clicks, our bats get together, we go on our run. Maybe it's the blind Blue Jays optimism for me, Riley, but that's what I'm hoping for we can see in this series. Maybe Isaiah Kiner-Falefa double dong is what sparks this team, and then we can go on a run.
Fun fact, 2015 Toronto Blue Jay, Dalton Pompey is now a Toronto police officer.
That was very fun.
I do not know how that is going to equivalate, because again, we're talking about 9 years removed, and two different
Been a long
teams.
time. Yep.
That year we had an MVP winner, followed up with 2 very powerful bats, in Jose Bautista and Edwin. I feel like the offense was at a different point. Maybe you looked at pitching, and then you looked at, oh, hey, I don't know at what point it was, but we also added, I don't know, Troy Tulowitzki at some point in that year.
David
too.
Price came over year. Yeah.
There was a lot going on in 2015. I mean, I hope that we can figure if we replay that and
I'm looking at. Go ahead.
If we end up winning, at least we're doing it early in the year. I hope we can turn it around now and not have to worry about it in the later months.
Yeah, I remember that here. I'm looking at it right now. The Blue Jays went into Washington, and we got 8 shutout innings pitched against us by Jordan Zimmerman. I think he had he threw a shutout against us with 2 hits or something ridiculous. The next day was the Kevin Pillar hit 2 home runs off Max Scherzer. We went in well. Mark Burley pitched a gem the next thing, and the Blue Jays won 10 straight, and you know the rest of the story from there. So maybe that's what we can hope for with the Blue Jays going to Washington this series. I really, really hope they can come together. And look, we need some positive. We need to talk about an offensive breakthrough. We need a spark in the worst way, and let's hope we get it this series. Any final thoughts, Riley, before we get out of here today?
it's a really good series to take advantage of. I
Mhm.
thought that against the Royals. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens, Jesse. Unfortunately, I won't be here Sunday night to talk
Yes.
with you. You know, I will know what's going on. I'm sure there will be text exchange with us. Hopefully they're yay hoorays and not, insert cuss word here, because I think we've been doing a lot of that lately and
Yes,
not
we have.
enough cheering.
Yeah, Blue Jays fans across the country have been doing a lot of swearing at their TVs so far this year, and we are no exception there. That's going to do it for us here today. As mentioned, we will have a guest host joining us as Riley McConnell takes a much-needed vacation. Who takes vacation during baseball season? Come on, Riley. But either way, you're forgiven. You got a place to be. I understand completely. So we will have some guests on the show, maybe some familiar faces. Who knows? It could be you listening, a viewer out there. You could be on the show here with me here. That's right. But for Riley McConnell, I'm Jesse Burrell. We will see you after the National Series, and let's hope we have a Blue Jay Series win to discuss. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.